Good morning, you guys, it's Karen and I am here to review this. This is the new niacinamide powder from The Ordinary. Let me show you what it looks like. I'm really excited about this powder. That's what it looks like. So you get 20 grams in here and it is £4.90. I got mine 2 days ago and I have been non-stop playing with it. I have spent hours actually mixing it with different things. I've done my skincare morning and night with this, but also another time during the day just to test different ways of using this. I've also tried weighing out different things and, you know, checking the figures, etc. And I've got some kind of crazy notes here. Thankfully I can understand them. So The Ordinary already do a niacinamide serum, which is £5, and it's a niacin plus zinc 1%. So this is a product that you would want to buy if you don't like the niacin serum for whatever reason. For me, it used to pill on my skin. I haven't tried the Ordinary one for quite some time. Perhaps I should try it again, but it is one that used to pill and, you know, ball up on my skin, and I hated that. If you don't want any complication and you don't like playing around with cosmetics, then it may be that the niacinamide serum is the one for you. The zinc, I think, is just a kind of added bonus in the niacin serum. But this one, you can add it to so many different things, and I have found lots of different ways of using it that I really enjoy. Let me tell you why I like niacin so much. So these are the benefits of using niacin. It's anti-inflammatory. It can improve your skin barrier function by increasing lipids within the skin. It can work on pores. I have never found it to work on pores, but I've maybe never used it for long enough. It can improve elasticity, fine lines and wrinkles, reduce oil. It's been thought to help rosacea. It can help uneven skin tone. It can help by reducing hyperpigmentation. It can bring moisture to the skin. There's so many benefits of this, and there's a lot of research out there behind niacin, although a lot of the research does mix it with other ingredients, but there is definitely a lot of studies that use just niacin, mostly at 5%. One of the reasons I wanted to start using niacin way back was when I started using tretinoin. If you use any form of retinol, using something like niacin before you start your regime of tretinoin and also during is really helpful, because it can kind of counteract the redness and irritation caused by the tretinoin. It can help the tretinoin work better. So you can see that niacin is a great ingredient. It's also not one that many people, if any, I've never heard of anybody having a reaction to niacin. It is, you know, a middle of the road pH. It's not one that's a super low pH. There's no reason for it to cause irritation like you would get with, say, a vitamin C or an acid. It will be a great ingredient for all skin types. It's just one of those wonder ingredients. So to have it in a powder form gave me new hope that I might be able to figure something out so that it doesn't ball up on my skin. I can get the concentration I want, etc, etc. Oh, just in case anybody mentions niacin flushing. Niacin flushing is something that you generally get when you take niacin supplements. I've told you guys a funny story about that. I used it 10-15 years ago to do a digestion test, and I gave it to myself and my husband, and he was not happy that it came out all red and itchy. But niacin flush only happens with nicotinamide, and this powder is niacinamide powder, and it actually says on the Ordinary website that there are less than 100 parts per million residual nicotinic acid. So the reason they've put that there is because if there was any nicotinic acid in here, then that would be the thing that would make your skin flush. So there's no chance of this making your skin flush. I know that people with something like rosacea might worry about that. Onto the instructions from the Ordinary website, and they provide this little spoon. You can see it's a tiny little spoon, but their instructions are to use 1/4 of this spoon mixed with 4 drops of any of the products that they mention. And they say to use it with hyaluronic acid, natural moisturizing factors, which is a cream, the buffet plus copper peptides, a Trixel 10%, or the aduraline solution, or argiline as it can be pronounced. So I have got, did they mention buffet? They mentioned buffet with copper peptides, but I have got just the straight up buffet. So that's one of the things that I have tried it with. I have also tried it with the Hydroluron Moisture Jelly, which is what I use as a night cream. I have also mixed it with an oil, but with a caveat, because this needs to be mixed with a water-based product in order to get it to dissolve. If you straight up put it into oil, it just wouldn't dissolve, it would be very gritty. But when you mix it with any kind of water-based product, it's just lovely and smooth and no issues whatsoever. So the way that I have used this, or the way that you can use an oil product, is use this and add in a couple of drops of something like aloe vera, or you can just add in a couple of drops of, sorry, I nearly dropped that, buffet. So mixing a couple of drops of oil in with this will make the product dissolve and no issues. The only thing with that is it might not penetrate as easily with having the oil in it. I have also used it in this, the Granactive Retinoid 2% emulsion. I don't see any issues with this because what they sort of specify, what the Ordinary specify, are that you should use this powder with a product of a pH of, I think it's 5.1, let me find their exact, 5.1 and 7, and so retinol tends to be in the middle somewhere, so that's absolutely fine. And this is a retinoid ester anyway. There is a tiny amount of retinol in this one, but it's only a very small amount, but should be the right pH and no problem with this at all. So this is the Granactive Retinoid 2% emulsion. The rest of the ordinary retinoids and retinols are in oil, so you wouldn't be able to use those. And then the final product that I use, this is micellar water. You can see in there, there's actually the niacin powder in there, so you can see how easily it dissolved. It actually looked a little bit foamy when I mixed it, but I just left it to sit, and I've used that a couple of times and I absolutely love it. All of these things that I have used, I have experienced no balling up on my skin whatsoever, even when using the oil, because that's when I had the most problems with the niacin, would be if I used niacin on my skin and then used an oil on top. Even if I layered something in between them, or I put the oil on last, whichever way I did it, if I mixed an oil in, it would just be horrendous. I have had zero issues with this, so I'm delighted. A couple of other things I've got here that you could mix it with: the Hada Labo hyaluronic acid, or any hyaluronic acid, and then this is the Nip Plus Fab Hydrate Spray. You could mix it into a spray as well. So back to what I was saying about measurements, they say to mix in 1/4 of this teaspoon with 4 drops of whatever you're going to use, such as this. There is a little bit of a problem with that, because firstly, you can see the size of this spoon and it is very, very difficult to get 1/4 of a teaspoon. And also, one person's 1 drop might be another person's 2 drops. And also they say with that equation, it should end up to between 10 and 15% concentration. So I'll say the same with this as I did with the vitamin C powder, that it is very, very difficult to get an exact amount if you are mixing it every day. When I've been testing out these products together and how much powder is needed and how much that spoon actually is and how many drops, how much a drop actually is, I've been using this little syringe, which is a 0.1 ml to 1 ml. This is just for Watson's medication. We've got lots of these. And I also used my gram scale. So normal kitchen scales start at 1 gram, and I've got these gram scales that start at 0.01 grams. So what I'll do is I'll put in the description for you the exact amounts to use if you want a 5% niacinamide, a 10% niacinamide, and in the different, you know, if you want to just use a few drops daily, or if you want to put it into an actual serum. If you want to use this daily, you want to mix it daily, it's going to be quite difficult to get the right percentage, because if you used the amount of liquid that you need to use 1 of these scoops, you would need to use 2 ml of liquid, which would be enough to cover your face, neck, arms, hands, and probably your upper body. You know, there's quite a lot of liquid there, and this is quite the buffet, and most of these things are quite they're not thick, you know, they're thin, they spread easily, you don't need to use an awful lot. So to show you making an exact or pretty exact anyway measurement of a 10% buffet, you could use a scoop. I would say make sure it's about level, a scoop of powder. So I'm just going to sit that on there, and then with my buffet I'm going to use my little syringe here, and you will need 2 mils. So that's 1 mil. I just want you to see how much it is. So that's 1 mil, and then another one. So that's 2 mils worth of buffet serum, and then if I add in that level scoop, that is 0.2 grams. that will make this a 10%. But you can see how much there is. Well, hopefully you can see. Like, that would do my face and neck and hands very, very generously. So you're probably using more than you need. So once you're using only 2 or 3 drops, you do need to just use a quarter of this scoop, which is very, very difficult to judge. So what's the risks with that? Well, the risks are that you will either put too little in and you'll have a lower percentage, which, bearing in mind, a lot of the studies are done using a 5% niacinamide, but they're 5% niacinamide twice a day. So that's one risk, is that you don't get the full concentration, you end up with a 5%. And the other risk is that you end up with a 20%. Now, there isn't any major issues with going overboard, other than for some people you might find that your skin is a little bit irritated and a little bit dry. But everybody will find that with different levels. The same with vitamin C, some people's skin can tolerate it, the same with retinol, the same with anything really. You would need to find your kind of irritation level. For me, certainly, I would have used a 20% for sure over these couple of days, because I was putting a scoop in to a few drops to see how my skin reacted. It didn't react at all. Didn't feel irritated. I can tell that my skin's not irritated because nothing else that I'm putting on it is stinging. Yeah, felt lovely to me. The way to get around the concentration, if you really do want to make sure that you've got a specific concentration, is to add the powder to a bottle of something. Bearing in mind, you can't use this powder with acids, so you can't use it with your vitamin C, you can't use it with your direct acids, anything that's got a low pH basically. But the way to get a specific concentration would be to use it in a bottle of something. So for example, this buffet, you would need to know exactly how much you had in the bottle, so you could order a new bottle so that you knew. And if this, well, this is a 60ml bottle, but say this was a 30ml bottle, which is this size, or say we were using this one. This is the Gran Active Retinoid, 2% emulsion. So this is 30ml. So in order to make this a 10% niacinamide, I would need to put 3 grams in here. That's still quite difficult to do, but at least it's quite difficult to do once. One way you could do it is to use a baking spoon that's a half a teaspoon. So, you know, you get the measuring spoons. And so you could use a half a teaspoon, which is 2.8 grams. So if you made that a little bit heaped, you could use a half a teaspoon measurement of this in with a 30ml bottle of serum, or in with a 30ml bottle of micellar water like this. I really like it in this formulation. So I don't know whether you can see that scale, but that's at 0. I'm just going to make up some micellar water. So this bottle is now empty and I have zeroed the scales. So I'm going to, what have I done with my, oh, here's my micellar water. So I'm going to put 10 grams of micellar water in here, or 10 mils that will be. There we go. So that's 10 grams of micellar water. So I've now zeroed this out. So I've got 10 ml of micellar water in here. In order to make this a 10%, I need to add 1 gram. A quarter of this scoop is 0.05 grams, which means that this scoop is 0.2 grams. So I will need 5 scoops in order to get a gram in here. I don't know whether it will register on the scales. We'll see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it's not registered. Sometimes it registers if you move it around. A tiny little bit more, because one of my scoops was quite stingy. And see, no, it doesn't even register on that scale, but that was 5 scoops. So this is now a 10% micellar water. So I'm just going to give it a shake. And like I said, you can see that it kind of goes foamy. But that does just settle down to a clear liquid. The only thing I would say with putting this powder into any of these products, you know, you could add it to any of these products. You'd struggle to put it in here because this is 150 ml. So you're going to need 15 grams. So you're going to need almost all of this pot to put in there. But the problem with that is, I'm not a chemist and I don't know how. I know that obviously they mix okay when you use them immediately, but to actually mix in with these formulas and leave them in the formulas, I don't know how well they mix with the other ingredients in their preservatives, whatever, because obviously they've not been formulated to have niacin in them So I don't know how they would react on a long-term basis. How would they react in light, etc. So I would be cautious making something up, especially in something like a serum like this. I think for some reason I'd be happier using it in a micellar water, but there's no rhyme, no reason to that. I just think that it would be the best way of getting the purest concentration, of knowing the most accurate concentration, but it wouldn't be 100% foolproof, because you don't know how it would react and how what would happen to the niacin within that formula just sitting there. But then the risk of using it daily is that you don't get an exact amount. I personally don't think that's an issue, especially if you do patch tests. So if when you get this niacin you want to see, am I going to have any sensitivity to it, then I would say mix a scoop in with 4 drops of whatever you're going to use. Put that on your neck or on, just on your cheek there or somewhere, and see if you react to it. Wait a few days and see if you react to it. If you don't, then the guesswork won't be as risky. It just means that you'll need to watch out, make sure your skin doesn't get too dry, and do to the best of your ability 1/4 of a spoon. But I don't even know if they could make a spoon that is 1/4 of this size. I mean, it would be very, very hard, wouldn't it? I don't know whether the machinery is available to make something that, 1/4 of the size of that, because you would think otherwise they would have done that. By the way, you can also use this in hair care. That's not something I've tried. It's supposed to help with oily scalps. It's supposed to kind of clarify your scalp, and it's supposed to help your other hair care work better as well. So that's something I might try at some point, but I'm still trying to find the right hair care within itself, so I'm not going to be adding anything to it just now. That's everything to tell you. I absolutely love this. As you can tell, whether or not I stay loving it or not is a question, because there are things that I've really enjoyed at the beginning and then gone, oh no, this is too much bother. But like I said, don't think that there's a huge issue with trying to measure out 1/4 of a scoop. No, it's not easy, but you're more likely to go over than under, I think, unless you just use like a little pinch. If you go under, then you may be getting more of a 5% or a 4% or something like that. And there isn't a risk with that. It just means you won't get as good results as if you were using a higher amount. If you go over the amount, which I think is more likely, the risk is that you may get dry, irritated skin, but it's a small risk. It's not something that's well known to happen with this, so you just need to keep an eye on that and get to know yourself exactly how much you need to put in. I'm not 100% sure which one I'm going to use it with. It's either going to be, I think, either going to be this Gran Active Retinoid or the Hyaluron Moisture Jelly, and this is actually not too far off being finished, so I'll probably use it in this for the next little while and then start using it in this. One thing I didn't mention actually is that it doesn't change the way your skincare is on your skin, other than it takes a little bit longer to absorb. I noticed with this, normally I'd put this on and it absorbed quite quickly, but it stays a little bit tacky for a little bit longer. That's all I noticed, and that isn't an issue to me at all. So I love this. Do you? I'd love to hear from you. Let me tell you what I am wearing. I've actually got on a No. 7 foundation. It's called Hydraluminous, I think, and it's in Calico, so it's one of the lighter colours. On my eyes is the McGrath Divine Rose 2 palette. I wasn't planning to film today. I was just kind of messing around with the makeup. I had a look at a couple of tutorials to see. I really want to love that palette, because it was so expensive and it was a gift. So this is the look I did with that. On my cheeks, I have got on the Radiant Magenta blush by Hourglass, and then on my lips is the Too Faced liquid lipstick in, I can't remember, it's the one I just bought, Holy Chic. That's what it's called, Holy Chic. That's everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.